It's a guide, and you have to look beyond the words. It's a guide to show us how to live. Now, why is the Bhagavad Gita so powerful, and why has it been studied so deeply by great philosophers all over the world, Eastern and Western? For Gandhiji, his two Bibles were the Gita and the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Before I start, we will be using this copy of the Bhagavad Gita, written by Sri Swami Satchidananda, translated by Sri Swami Satchidananda. Now, I've chosen this one to expound because it is very simple, it's very 21st century, and very easy to understand. I have read so many Gitas in my life, and this one resonates with me the most because, one, he's also my master. And when you choose a master in life, you can resonate with that master. You have a rapport beyond words. So it's not the words that really matter, it's the energy. The Gita is also known as an Upanishad. Can you all say the word? Upanishad. Now, what is an Upanishad? We have what we call the Vedas that came to India, they say from the north, nobody knows when, thousands of years ago. And the Vedas contain truths. They contain truths about Dharma, how we should live our lives. They contain truths about things like Ayurveda, medicines, by understanding the body. They talked about warfare. They talked about work. They talked about every aspect of life that we have to go through. In one of the sections of the Vedas, they just contain mantras and songs of love. All right? So, and then the deepest part of the Vedas is what we call the Upanishads. The word means up by the feet of the master. So when you're up by the feet of a master, you get the direct, what we call Shakti, energy, the flow of energy. So why is this a Upanishad? So the Gita comes from an epic, very famous epic. I'm sure you all heard about it, the Mahabharat. Have you all heard about it? Mm-hmm. It's studied all over the world. BBC's done a huge documentary on it, etc. All right? So now the Mahabharat's rather like the Bible for me. There's many stories about magic and what happens, and all the yogic traits, all the all the family problems as we have in life. So, and then in the middle of it, there is this battle. And in this battle, Lord Krishna, representation of the divine energy in human form, speaks to a warrior, Arjuna, face to face, to tell him why he has to do something he doesn't want to do. What doesn't he want to do? He doesn't want to fight a war. And Krishna sits by him and tells him why he needs to fight this war. Now you may all be thinking, as many people have asked me in the past, why is God advocating war? God is not advocating war. And I will give you a little bit about the background so that you understand what kind of war there is. And then you will understand the allegory and how it relates to your life, each one of us. You see, many of the spiritual books are written and very difficult to understand. They'll say, you are the self, we are one with consciousness, we are this, we are that. Very easy to say, but how do you live it in face of opposition? How do you live it in face of problems? Very easy to talk about when everything is going right? So many people get frustrated on the spiritual path because they can't do it. They go, I can't do this. I can't get here. I can't, I'm meditating every day. I'm singing, chanting every day, but I'm not having that peace, that love, that bhakti. I don't feel, I'm still judging everybody. I still have to live in a world where I have to deal with so much nonsense. I still have to pay bills, I have to get accounts. Family's giving me headaches. How do I deal with this? Am I a bad person? So spiritual people, when they do something wrong, or they think they're doing wrong because they've made so many judgments on themselves and on others, that they are totally discouraged, totally lost, and they become totally disillusioned. So the Gita is written for those of us who still are not yet monks and come to earth as householders, people who have to be in this world. We need that part of the world too to function. I mean, if everybody becomes monks, no, we wouldn't function. So the Gita is basically written for people like us who have to face these day-to-day wars. We're not locked up in a cave, and we're not been given, we chose, and not to sit in in meditation all our lives, because we chose to be in the garment. This is the garment of what we want to learn in this body. Okay, so the soul comes to this body, chooses the disguise, which we forget is a disguise, and we make a contract to learn what our mission here on earth is. What is really our mission here on earth? And of course, when we have to deal, people like us have to deal with everyday matters, it's not easy. So this book is really helps those of us. That's why Gandhi loved it so much, because he had to deal with spiritual issues, but he also had to deal with political issues. And how did he win his war? In his case, he didn't wage a physical war. In fact, many wars were waged against him and the people. They were beaten many times. But he waged a peaceful war. Now, this one is slightly different. Thank you for your book. So, let me just give you the background very briefly, and then we're going to get into the Gita. And here's a chart so you don't, it's so many names that you're going to get confused. This whole Upanishad starts at a battlefield. And the battlefield, it's called the Battle of Kurushetra. Now, how did this battle come to happen in the first place? There were three brothers. The eldest brother was King Dhritarashtra. The second brother was Pandu. And the third one was Vidura. There's not much said about Vidura here, because really the war is fought between the Kauravas and the Pandavas. Now, Dhritarashtra was the eldest son, but because he was born blind, and this is again symbolic, okay, he was born blind, he could not be king. So his brother Pandu was anointed king. In those days, disability, you cannot rule. Okay, so already there was a jealousy between Dhritarashtra and his brother Pandu. So Pandu realized this, so they separated the kingdom and they both ruled happily. Now Dhritarashtra is married to Gandhari, and their eldest son was called Duryodhana. You need to know this because we're going to talk about him quite a lot. Can you say Duryodhana? And she had 99 other sons. Don't ask me how. I'm sure there must have been lots of concubines there, right? So anyway, that is the lineage there. Pandu married Kunti, and Kunti had three sons: Yudhishthira, Bhima, and Arjuna. He also married Madri, who had two sons. They were twins, Nakula and Sahadev. So everything was fine. They ruled in two kingdoms. Everybody was very happy. But then Pandu died. When Pandu died, it is the Indian culture and tradition that the other brother has to look after the wives and their family after that, because women can't rule. So what happened, Kunti and her son moved into the royal household with Dhritarashtra and his family. Now, while they were growing up in this household, these five boys, they were so talented. Yudhishthira, the eldest son, he was so kind. Everybody loved him. He was a gentle soul, but he was so kind. Bhima, the second son, was very powerful and strong, and people had respect for his power and strength. Arjuna was a warrior beyond words. And Nakula and Sahadeva, they were very intelligent in everything they did. So of course, when they had lessons and when they were taught by their gurus, because in those days they had kings and princes had to be taught by their gurus, they were always excelled at everything. So guess what? Families, you know this. Sisters, brothers, you know this. Uncle, aunties, nieces, you know this. Jealousy came up. So when the jealousy came up, the boys, now they had grown up, they realized, this is jealousy. Doesn't matter. We'll take our part of the land. So they took their part of the land and they said, we'll rule in our part and you rule in your part. We're grown up now. We can do this ourselves. And of course, because of their goodness, because of their kindness, because of their greatness, guess what? Everybody loved them, right? Even got Duryodhana, the eldest son, because he should be loved more than anybody else, got even more jealous. So he said, we got to get these people down, but we have no reason. They haven't done anything bad to us. How can we do something harmful to them so we can get rid of them? We should be kings. We looked after them. We are 100. They're only 5. And, what right do they have? What right do people have to say they are greater than us? There's jealousy. So, anyway, so what happened is they had a good plan. They knew the Pandavas didn't want animosity. They wanted the family to be together. They were good people. So they realized that Yudhishthira, the eldest son, had a weakness. See, good people also have weaknesses, right? And his weakness was gambling. So they decided to invite him to the palace to make amends, and let's get together. Let's play a good game of friendly cards. And if you go to many Indian households, I don't know, they all play rummy when, they retire. Do you know that? Yes. And they gamble. They actually gamble all the time. In Hong Kong, they have rummy clubs and all these clubs. It's quite common, right? And so it's a friendly game. Let's get together. Let's make peace. So, of course, Yudhishthira goes, of course, they're landing a hand in friendship. We will accept this hand in friendship. So they go. And Duryodhana, together with his uncle, Shakuni, they plan how they're going to cheat that nobody can recognize it. So they go and tell the blind king, who doesn't want to see. And first he says, no. And the third brother, Vidura, says, no, this is not good. Don't do this. Bad things will happen from doing something like this to your own family. But Dhritarashtra is so blinded by his eldest son. My eldest son, he's got to be king. He's got to be the best because my son's got to be the best. So he knows it's wrong, but he allows it. How many times have we seen that in families, right? If you look at these things in life, you see it happens all the time. Say, Mom, why are you protecting them? They're wrong. Oh, but you don't know. Do you know? Or whatever. I've seen this happen so many times. So he is, I love my son. So they have this game, and Yudhishthira starts losing. Of course, they're cheating again and again and again and again and again until he's gambled away all his kingdom. He's even almost gambled away his wife. And finally, it stops. Everybody says, stop. But he has no more to give. He's lost the game and he's gambled everything away. So Lord Krishna is there at this huge gathering party. And he knows that this cheating has happened. But he has to be neutral, right? The witness, the divine, is neutral. So he... And so what happens is Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana said, now that they're finished, they owe us so much money, let's dump them into prison and let's lock them up and, and the land is ours. All the land is ours anyway. And Krishna said, please do not do this. At least make some kind of compromise. They didn't want to compromise. They didn't want to compromise. Finally, Krishna convinced them to make a compromise. And the compromise was the 5 brothers with their mother and their family all go to the forest for 12 years. After 12 years, on the 13th year, they could move around any of the cities, but nobody could recognize them. If they fulfill that after 13 years, then they could get back their land. They would accept that. So, of course, they had no choice but to honor, because they did lose. Yudhishthira did lose, and they refused to admit that, the other party refused to admit that they were cheating, as criminals do. Refused to admit that they had cheated. So anyway, they went into the forest and they suffered a lot for 12 years. In fact, Duryodhana and his brothers many times sent spies to find them, tried to burn down their house one night, they tried to poison them. Throughout the 12 years, they really tried to kill them many times. So really you can say his brother was a murderer, right? But all the time, because these boys were accepting of their fate and didn't complain, the gods were on their side. They always had somebody to warn them about the house being burnt down. They always had time to escape, or that there was poison. Because when you work for the divine, this is the meaning of it, you are looked after even in your most difficult moments. Even when you feel people about to murder you and kill you, you still, if you live in goodness, you will be looked after. Okay? So after 13 years, they finish, they come back, they go to Duryodhana. Duryodhana, we've fulfilled our part of the bargain. Now, please give us back our land. We've suffered enough for 13 years and we've made it. And he says, never will I give you back your land. So now the mother Kunti says, now you have to wage war. Because this is absolutely wrong. They are not honorable. They have not kept their bargain as they promised. We have to wage war. So this is how they start to go to battle. And just before they go to battle, Krishna is the avatar in a body form. He's very wealthy, he has lots of armies. So they both want to go to Krishna for help, right? Because they always ask his advice for everything. So Krishna, being divine, he knew they were coming, so he pretended to lie down on a couch. So on his head, he put a chair, and he pretended to sleep. Duryodhana arrived just a little bit before Arjuna. But so he thought, oh, thank God there's a chair, I'm going to sit down. So he sat down on the chair behind Krishna. And Arjuna thought, oh, I can't stand, my master is lying down. I can't sit. I need to show respect before I sit. This is a Hindu culture thing. You don't sit till the elders tell you you can sit. So he stood up at the feet of Krishna. And Krishna pretended, he opens his eyes. Arjuna, what are you doing here? And he says, oh, Krishna, we are going to war. I've come to ask, your help. And Duryodhana said, but I came first. You should ask me what I want. And Krishna said, no, I have to. I opened my eyes and I saw Arjuna first. Besides, it's our custom to let the younger child decide first because they're younger. So what happens is, he says, Arjuna, what do you want? He said, Krishna, I need your help for this war. I need your blessings for this war. And Krishna says, okay, both of you want the same thing. You both want my help. And this is what I'm going to offer you. I can give one side or my armies, or you can have me. So Arjuna, decide, what do you want? Do you want all my armies or do you want me? And Arjuna said, what good are your armies without you? Don't you think I know who you are? I take you. And Duryodhana went, phew, what a fool. What a fool. I'll take all your armies. I'm really happy. So he takes all his armies. And Krishna, one last try, just before the battle was about to happen, said he's going to try again one more time to appeal to Duryodhana to do the right thing. So he goes to Duryodhana's house, and Duryodhana pretends and makes this lovely, beautiful throne. On the seat of the throne, it's all thatched with hay, and below it is a pit. So he thought that he would let Krishna sit on the throne, and Krishna would fall in the pit, and he would lock him up. But Krishna was divine and had divine yogic powers, so he could levitate. So when he sat on the throne, he knew this was all going to happen. And then as he sat, he levitated and he saw what happened. And he said to Duryodhana, "Now, I cannot help you anymore. I've done everything in my power to help you change your mind. But now, this is beyond my help anymore. You even want to kill the divine. I cannot help you." So he walks away. So the war, after many months, they prepare their armies, they get people on both sides, and they go, there is the war. And this is a very famous painting that you will see always when they talk about the Gita. Chariot, 5 white horses, Lord Krishna with the reins, and Arjuna directing. Now what does represent? The 5 white horses are our senses, right? Sight, smell, you tell me? Taste, touch, right? So if we are not in control of those 5 senses, guess what? Life will be crazy. It'll be crazy. We'll be living a war inside ourselves. Because, if your senses tell you, "Oh, I'm hungry all the time," and you start eating, there's going to be a war inside your head. "No, I shouldn't eat." Do you see what I'm saying? Too many thoughts. Okay? So you need to control your senses. The reins, your mind. Your mind controls your senses. Krishna holding the reins. If you allow the body, the chariot, your ego, which is Arjuna, if you allow the divine to take over and work with your mind, and what is the divine? Good over evil. If you allow that in your mind, then you can control the senses and win every war. You can win the war. Okay, so this is an allegory. It is a story. And many people ask me, did this war really happen? There are people who say it really did, because there are some historical facts. It's about 5,000 years ago, and there happened they've dug up some things to show that there was a war there in Kurushetra. And other people say, no, it's just an allegory, a story. It was written by somebody called Vyasa, and he wrote it with the blessings, and you call it automatic writing today, of Lord Ganesh, the elephant god. And Lord Ganesh said, you have to sit down and write this whole thing until it's finished. And that's how the Mahabharat was written. So the book starts with chapter 1, despondency of Arjuna. And I'm not going to go through a lot of the first few slokas, they're called. Can you say slokas? Slokas are verses, because the first few slokas just describe the battlefield. They describe all the people, the names. There's lots of very long Indian names, so there's no need for you to know all of that, right? So the battle starts like this, both sides, and then Arjuna says to Lord Krishna, Lord Krishna, before we go into this battle, please take me to the middle of the battlefield. I want to see who's fighting against me, who has volunteered to be on the other side. Okay, I want to see. So Krishna takes him to the middle of the battlefield. And he looks. Not only sees Duryodhana, who started all the trouble, and Shakuni and all these people, he sees his grandfather. He sees his teacher when he was young, his guru. He sees all the people he loves, his cousins that he had no problem with, all on the wrong side. And he's going, what? How can they be on the wrong side? And I struggled with this when I was studying the Gita as well. And I realized, of course, if somebody feeds you all your life, like Duryodhana looked after Bhishma, which was the grandfather. He lived in their palace all the life. He was very good to his grandfather. And Drona, the guru, they looked after the guru all their lives because that's where they started. So of course, when they're called to take part in the war and say you have to be on our side, what are they to do? Even though they knew it was incorrect, their loyalties, they had to follow their loyalties. You see how confusing life is in the body? When we have this body, we have this mind, life can be extremely confusing. There's such deep issues that we have to confront. And so Arjuna is looking and saying, oh my God, I don't want to kill them. I can't do this. I can't do this. So here we start. We're going to go to book 1 and we're going to start chapter 1, the despondency of Arjuna. And we're going to start with sloka 26. Standing there, Arjuna saw in both armies uncles, grandfathers, teachers, cousins, sons, grandsons, comrades, father-in-laws, friends. On seeing his friends and relatives positioned on both sides, Arjuna was overcome with pity and said despondently, "O Krishna, my limbs fail me, my mouth is parched, my body is shaking, and my hair stands on end, seeing my relatives gathered here and anxious to fight." Arjuna's bow, he had his bow in his hand, it was called the Gandiva, fell from his hand. "My skin is burning. I can't keep standing. I can't. And my mind seems to be reeling. I see bad omens, Krishna. I cannot see any good resulting from the slaughter of my own people in battle. Krishna, I do not desire victory, kingdom, or even pleasures. What is the use of all of this in life?" Okay, so now, what do you call this in modern terms?
Panic attack.
Yes, you got it. Anybody have that? My hands are burning. My legs are trembling. My heart is palpitating. Modern day stress, panic attack. This is where it started. At the battlefield, when you're in battle, when you have to make a decision that is so difficult and you don't know what decision to make, you're in battle in your mind, aren't you? The 100 bad sons represent your 100 negative thoughts in your mind, and the 5 good boys are the 5 positive. Negative is so much stronger in our minds, and you know this. When negative things happen to you, you think about it all the time. Positive things, yes, you're happy that day, but you'll forget it soon. When the negative things happen, you only remember the negative things, right? So this is the state of our mind. And so this is exactly what's happening to him. And now he's trying to make all these excuses. He's trying to make all these excuses because he doesn't want to, he's scared. He's absolutely petrified. He doesn't want to go into war, and he has every reason to go into war. They tried to make peace. They did not accept it. So he's giving now Lord Krishna all the excuses, right? And he's saying, Krishna, I don't want victory. I don't want money. I don't want power. I don't want anything. Can't we just forget this, And he goes, then he goes on. He said, I'm happy to renounce everything. He said, I can't fight with my relatives. I'm moving quite fast on this one, okay? Because it's quite easy to understand. Even if they kill me, Krishna, I do not want to kill them. I just don't want to do this. What pleasure would I get? Why should I kill the sons of Dhritarashtra? Only trouble will happen to me if I kill them. Only trouble. I'm only going to get bad karma. And then he says, he admits, though their understanding is clouded by greed, and they feel no guilt about exterminating an entire family or showing hostility towards friends. He said, so here's saying, he's making like an excuse, I can't do it, da-da. And then he says, but you know what? Even though they're so hostile to us, and they try to kill us, they're murderers, they try to exterminate our whole family, and then he stops, Because he's admitting they're not good, right? He's admitting them. Then he said, shouldn't we recoil from such sin? Why should we do the same thing? This will cause a lot of destruction. A war will cause a lot of destruction. And he goes on and he says, traditions are destroyed by wars. Families are destroyed. Women will marry all kinds of wrong people, and caste will be destroyed. Everything will be destroyed. And then he goes, we heard that people must suffer for some time in hell when religious practices of their family are destroyed. So he goes, they are bent on hurting us. They want to do this great sin. See, he's fighting with himself. One minute he's telling Krishna, I don't want to fight. The next minute he's admitting they're not good people. They want to kill us anyway. They'll exterminate us anyway. They're not going to give us back our land anyway. Do you see the battle? And this is when we're in conflict. Isn't this the battle? And so he's there, and then he says finally at the end of chapter 1, it would be far better for me if the armed sons of Dhritarashtra would come upon me unarmed, unresisting in battle, and slay me and kill me. Let them kill me. And saying that, he got so depressed and fell on the floor. Now chapter 2 is where the wisdom starts to come. So I sometimes, when I have patients, they come to me like this, and it's really quite interesting. I don't know what to do. I see these both sides of my life. How do I move forward? Da 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 da. And having this, I have panic attacks. Da da da. And the next chapters teach Arjuna Krishna advises Arjuna what to do. Chapter 2 is called the Yoga of Wisdom. All right? Sanjaya said, when Krishna saw Arjuna overcome with sentiment, despondent, eyes blurred with tears and despair. Now Sanjaya was a kind of medium who was in the palace with Dhritarashtra while all the war was starting, because Dhritarashtra was blind. He could not go to the war. He could not see the war. So Sanjaya was this medium, or his inner voice, you can say, speaking to Dhritarashtra and explaining what was happening at the battlefield. He says, when Krishna saw Arjuna overcome with sentiment, despondent, eyes blurred, and tears of despair, the blessed Lord said, from where arises this shameful and cowardly dejection, Arjuna, which at this dangerous moment bars your way to heaven? Yield not to weakness, it does not suit you. Shake off this petty faint-heartedness. Stand up, scorcher of foes. Wake up. And so here, Lord Krishna is telling him, why are you feeling so weak all of a sudden? What's wrong with you? You are a warrior. Arjuna was the best warrior there was. This gives you your way to heaven. Why is he saying fighting a war gives you a way to heaven? Remember, we're talking about good over evil. All right? Now, if Arjuna doesn't conquer evil, what will happen? Evil will stay in the world. There's somebody who has to do the job. And he has no choice. And Krishna will explain this to him. Why? His karma brought him back to earth as a warrior prince, as a good person, so that righteousness could prevail in our world. That was his karma. That was his duty. So supposing, for example, a policeman's duty is to save you if a burglar comes to the house and the burglar wants to shoot you and the policeman comes in. Oh, the burglar is my brother. Let him shoot you. Would he be doing his duty? No. What would you say? He's corrupt. Correct or incorrect? He's corrupt. So here, Lord Krishna is saying, why are you such a coward? You know that's all corrupt. And you've been given the job of looking after this. It's kind of like Les and I were talking the other day about Frodo in Lord of the Rings. Have you seen the Lord of the Rings or read the book? And what did he say? I wish this ring didn't come to me, right? But he had no choice, did he? He had no choice. He was given the ring. He was chosen. That was his dharma. That was his given his part in the play on earth. And here, Lord Krishna is saying, don't be so weak. It's like when people come to me, Nalanie, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. Of course you can do it. Of course you can do it. But how to do it? But you can do it. No, I can't. I said, no, it's not that you can't do it. It's you're a coward. You're a coward. You don't want to do it because you're scared of the result. Don't be scared of the result. You've been asked to do something, just do it. So long as your intention is not to cause pain. What was the intention? To do what was right. If Arjuna didn't do his duty, these evil people will continue killing and lying and hurting the nation. That's why none of the people of the nation went with Duryodhana and his brothers. They all went with Yudhishthira because they knew they were good people. So he says, don't be, it doesn't suit you to be weak and cowardly. And then Arjuna says, oh Krishna, how can I ever fight with my Bhishma, who was his grandfather, and Drona, who are worthy of my worship? These people are worthy of my worship. It would be better for me to live as a beggar than to kill these great souls who have been my teachers. Even if I were to kill them, my enjoyment of wealth and desires in this world would be stained with their blood. Even if I kill them, I'll never be happy anyway. True, this is life. There is suffering. Sometimes you have a job, don't worry about the result. If you have to save someone, you have to save someone. The result may not be what you want. Whole of the Gita is, wow, we cannot control things. We can only do our duty to the best of our ability. And then he says, the sons of Dhritarashtra stand before us. I do not know which would be better, for us to kill them or for them to kill us. If we slay them, we won't even want to live. Okay, so you see when people make an excuse, they'll make like 1,000 excuses. Haven't you seen it in your family with your kids? But mom, but dad, but. And they say, don't be so weak, but, right? And this is very common. You see, humankind we haven't changed in all these thousands of years. And then he says, I am weighed down with weak-mindedness. Now he admits it. I am weak. I am so confused and cannot understand my duty. I cannot understand my duty. I beg of you to say for sure what is right for me to do. Please teach me, for I have taken refuge in you. And he's desperate. And when we get desperate, what do? What do you do?
Turn to God.
Yes, don't we? We pray. We go, please help, teach me. And even for those people who don't believe in a God or a divine power and energy, even they will ask for help, right? When they're desperate, even they will ask for help. And sometimes when people tell me I'm an atheist, and I go, then who are you praying for help for? You know, I'm a bit confused about what you thinking you're an atheist. Or I don't believe in anything beyond life. Then why, when you're in danger, why are you coming to me for help? There's nothing beyond life. Carry on doing what you're doing. Why are you worried about it? You don't believe in spirit. What is spirit? You know? And then you question this, right? This is really interesting. And I'd love to read here something that Gurudev writes, and I love it. If a person knows that he knows not, listen to this. If a person knows that he knows not, ignore him. If he knows that he knows not, go teach him. If he knows that he knows, go learn from him. Some people know that they don't know that they know not. They pretend they know everything. Just ignore them. Have you met those people in your life? I have. They give me big lectures. Sometimes they go down and give me, really? Okay. Interesting. I don't think you got the message, so it's really interesting. So now he's desperate and he's like, help me. I really don't know what to do. He knows he's confused. He knows he's really in trouble now. And then he says, I do not see any remedy for this deep grief that parches my senses. Again, he goes on and on. Even if I were to achieve prosperous and unrivaled royalty here on earth and even heavens. And after speaking this way to Krishna, the Lord of the senses, Arjuna, who is terrified at this point, says, I won't fight, and becomes silent. So he's asking for opinion, but he's saying, I'm not going to do it. So it's just like when I read all these words and I thought, oh God, this is us when we get into a difficult situation and we think, can't we just ignore the situation? Can't we pretend it's not there? Can't we just make it go away? Why don't you just go away, right? Why don't you just go? And it doesn't go away. It keeps coming back, right? Then the great King Krishna seemed to smile, a smile of compassion, all right? And spoke these words to the despondent warrior in between the two armies. So he looks at everything. He's like, oh my God, my poor son is very confused, right? And then he starts teaching him. You are grieving for those who should not be grieved for, while uttering would-be words of wisdom. The wise grieve neither for the living nor the dead. There never was a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor any of these ruling princes, and neither will there ever come a time when we will cease to be. Now he's giving him what we call Vedanta, the end of all knowledge, Upanishad, the real knowledge of spirit. He's saying, guess what? You're never going to die. Neither will all these people that you think you're going to kill, they're not going to die. You are grieving for these people who don't deserve to be grieved for. Do they deserve it? They don't deserve it. They try to kill you, murder your family. Don't grieve. And then he goes, because nobody dies. Why? Don't grieve so much for the living and the dead. There is no death. After life, we call it death, but then death, there is life. It's a continuum. Consciousness, energy never dies. So he's teaching them, you never die. This is just the part this is your part in this play. And then he goes, that which is embodied, all these next slokas are very, very, very famous, all right? That which is embodied experiences the body's childhood, youth, and old age, and also in time acquires another body. This does not disturb one whose mind is very calm. Here he is talking about reincarnation. He says, when your mind is calm, you can see the truth of this. When you're agitated, nothing makes sense, right? When you're anxious, everything's just, your mind goes crazy. But when you're calm and you just reflect on this simple truth. You were a baby once, right? Doesn't that seem far away? Do you remember yourself as a baby? Even in this one lifetime? Then you were a young child. And then you were youth and old age and then death. And he's trying to remind him of the truth of life. And then he says, as the senses contact the objects of the senses, feelings of heat and cold, pain and pleasure occur. Arjuna, these sensations come and they go. They're impermanent. Patiently endure them. great prince. Now he's trying to encourage Arjuna to be brave again, not to be weak. So he said, this is the way of the world. When your senses are in touch with things, right, you're going to experience heat and cold. I touch this, it's cold now, it was hot before. You're going to experience pain, pleasure. It's part of life. You're going to experience all of these dualities in life. This is life. And he says, you just have to patiently endure all of it. Patience. That's why when people get really agitated and they don't know what to do and they get really anxious, what do we tell them to do? Breathe. It gives them some time. Because they want to be cured right now and I have to get out of this right now. So you make them breathe, be a little patient, and once they feel a little calm, you can talk common sense to them. You can show them the picture of reality. This is reality. This is reality. In fact, that person who is not tossed about by sense experiences and always stays balanced in pain and pleasure is fit to experience immortality. This is what the practice of yoga is all about. To try to maintain balance, as Buddha talks about the middle path. So try to maintain, that person who can maintain balance will understand the truth. Why? When you are balanced, you are neutral. When you are neutral, it's like water, a crystal. You can see all the colors through, and you can see everything as it is. Not tainted by your own emotion. This is good, this is bad, this is wrong, this is right. You just see it is as it is. And that's the truth. It is as it is. Sometimes big problems come to you. It is as it is. Don't freak out, he's saying. Don't freak out. And that's how you experience immortality. Wow, I love this one, because when you're really calm, and then you see all this happening in front of you, even your mind going crazy, but you are calm. You actually experience that consciousness of connection with the divine. And that's immortality. You experience it while you're alive, and this is what we're meant to do. To experience this, even when everything is going wrong. And he goes, what is not has never been, and what is always is. The truth about the real and the unreal has been realized by the seers, the wise one, the one to contemplate. You realize. That's why we do that chant, right? Asatoma sadgamaya tamasoma jyotirgamaya mrityoma amritam gamaya. What does it mean? Lead us from unreal to real. Lead us from darkness to the light. Lead us from the fear of death to the knowledge of immortality. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And that's why we chant it after every Hatha Yoga class, to remind ourselves why we are looking after this body, why we are looking after this mind, and we are really spirit. And we need to remind ourselves, this is quite unreal. Life is here for a short time. All of us will leave our bodies behind. The day will come. All of us, none of us will be in this room. Who is going to inhabit it? I don't know. Do you know? I certainly won't be around. I don't even know if I'll be around tomorrow. None of us know, do we? Here he's telling him nothing ever dies. Have you forgotten? You got so involved you forgot with your senses. Know that this vast universe is pervaded by that which is indestructible. No one can destroy what is everlasting and imperishable. Can you destroy space? Can fight with you, space? No. When this body dies, what leaves it? Space, energy, chi, prana. Can you destroy that? Never. It's consciousness. Can we destroy consciousness? Never. So what are we really? We're energy. We're energy. And he's reminding Arjuna, we're energy. This is so you cannot be destroyed. Sorry, you got this job in life. I know you don't like it, but everybody's depending on you. You know, people are depending on you. So whoever thinks that Atman or the self does the killing or can be killed misunderstands. The self doesn't kill nor is ever killed. So he said, you are feeling guilty because you think you're doing the killing. You're not doing anything, my son, because I, the highest power, am in you. And I don't kill. I don't kill. We just, what do I say? Problems and solutions. And this is, it sounds like killing, but it's not killing. It's problems and solutions. I don't kill. So don't worry. The self is in you. So your ego thinks you are doing the killing. Your ego thinks you're important. Your ego thinks you're weak. Your ego thinks you can't do it. But guess what? I'm in you. So you're not the doer. You are not the doer. I am making you move. It is not born and it does not die. Unborn, eternal and ancient. The self is not killed when the body is killed. So you are never killed when your body is killed. So if somebody dies, don't cry so much. They're not dead. They're just gone. They're not killed. The body is here, but they're gone. They're somewhere else, who knows where, but they're not dead. They can never die. Energy can never die. We say we all come from one consciousness, right? And I repeated this, I think maybe last week to some people, maybe to you, I don't even remember. But I love that what Ramakrishna said. And he said this so beautifully. He said, just as water can solidify into a cube of ice, right? The ocean of consciousness solidifies into beings like us. So we're all drops of this ocean, and we just come as individual beings to experience. But our senses got carried away. What are the problems? Greed, what happened? Duryodhana got carried away. Jealousy, greed, all lust, all these things, murder, all these things. He just got carried away. So there's a solution to sort that problem out too. That's all he's saying. So he goes, whatever is born will undoubtedly die. Whatever is dead will certainly be born. You should not mourn for what is inevitable. It is inevitable. It is the truth. Arjuna, beings originally are all unmanifested. Originally we just come from consciousness. At mid-state, they're manifested. Then we become. And then unmanifested again at the end. So what is the point of crying? You're going to go through this for eternity. Why cry? Why are you lamenting? One may perceive the self as full of wonders. Other speaks of it as marvelous. Another hears of it as wonderful. Yet none completely understand it. We talk about the self, the higher self with an S, or God, or whatever you want to call it, as all these wonderful things, but very few people really understand this. The self which exists in everyone. Did you hear that? The divine exists in everyone. The indweller, the one that lives in you, is invulnerable, Arjuna. Therefore, you do not have to grieve. Nothing ultimately can harm you. Furthermore, looking at your own duty. Now, look at your duty. You will have no reason to waver. For certainly there is nothing higher for a Kshatriya than a righteous war. Now, a Kshatriya is, and later on I will explain this to you because it's not explained here. A Kshatriya is a warrior. the military class, all right? And in every society, you have 4 classes, which I'll explain another day. But Kshatriya is the warrior class. And the warrior class is supposed to protect the world from evil and destruction. That is their job, because somebody has to do the policing, right? So he says, now you're a policeman kind of thing, or you're the warrior, and this duty has been given to you as a gift. So get over your karmas by doing, this is your karma, right? And there's no better war to win than the war of goodness. It's a war of goodness. I mean, today wars are not of goodness. Today people go for wars, for oil, for greed, for they want to take diamonds, or blood diamonds they call them, right? The wars are not honorable at all. Our world has become terrible. But the war here is a war of honor, to save for righteousness. So he's saying that's your duty. And like Proto, this is the duty you've been given. So you have to save your nation, whether you like it or not. Happy indeed are the Kshatriyas, Arjuna, called to fight in such a battle that comes of itself, like an open gate to heaven. So here now you're getting the opportunity to do what is right. Because what other duty is there for a Kshatriya? What other duty is there for a beautiful singer but to sing beautifully? What greater duty for an IT person to do the IT so well and elevate the world, or an author to write a beautiful book to elevate some? Do you see what I'm saying? What is the duty you have been given? Look at where you are in life. Half the time we don't like where we are and we want to be somebody else, or we want to do something else. And half the time we don't want to be ourselves. And we should be proud of who you are. So whoever you are, whatever you are. See, the problem is we're never happy with who we are. We always want to be somebody else. And where you are, you're giving battles, especially when things go wrong. You wish I didn't have this job, I wish I didn't have this, because everything's going wrong for you. No, don't be afraid. This came to you because you can deal with it. You know, there's a saying, God never gives you what you can't deal with. And you can deal with it. That's why it's given to you. And of course, all of us, like Arjuna, become scared. We're terrified when we have to face these wars, but we have to do it. We just do it. And when we do it, we know we've done the right thing. You know, there's a sense of, I came here, I've done it, I've done my mission. You know it. But when you're always delaying your mission, trying to be somebody else or trying to do somebody else's job, there is never a sense of peace in you. There's never a sense of peace. You are never at peace until you do what you were born to do. And that's what it's saying. So this is what you were born to do. This is why I always tell people, when you go on the spiritual path, first learn about your own psychology, who you are, your background, where you've come, what wars you've had to face in your life, and why. Why were you given these battles? There's a reason, because you can get through them. If you fight, resist, stress, why me, I'm the victim, you come back and do it again and again and again. So why not just learn this time around? You've been given it because you can do it. There's no war you can't fight. And Gurudev always says, when you have complete faith, what? Nothing is impossible. But don't you know you are divine? This is where Krishna is encouraging him. Don't remember who lives in you, the higher self. That is neutral, that is wonderful, that is loving. But who knows what it's really all about? Only when you are in that state of calm and peace can you really understand this. But I'm telling you, you are that. And that's what Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna. Remember who you really are. And St. Francis says, make me an instrument of your peace. My guru always said, no, Nalanie, be the instrument. You are already the instrument. All we have to do is continue that. We are like a flute, and let the divine play us. Follow. Don't be afraid to follow. Don't be afraid to follow your music. Don't be afraid to follow your tune, your life. You're good enough as you are. Okay, now you've got this horrible problem in front of you. You can deal with it. With me on your side, and I live inside of you, the diamond, you can do it. And the whole of this book is all about that. Really, as we go on and you realize some of these concepts in your own life, this is what scriptures are for. To look deeply into your life, not to memorize them and then go and swear and cause problems. It's not about that. And say, oh, Krishna said to fight a war. No. It's your inner battle. What battles do you have with yourself? What are you afraid of? Nothing to be afraid of. Soul was not born and it will never die. Life is full of changes. You will have good times, you have bad times, you have all those times. Stay calm. Remember, I am not the doer. I am an instrument and I'm always looked after. All I have to do is, where there's hatred, let me bring love. Where there is darkness, let me bring light. Despair, hope. If a person who's righteous allows somebody who unrighteous to rule the world, there's no hope for the people, is there? Everybody will become disillusioned and depressed, kind of what the world's becoming quite now. A lot of people coming depressed because they feel there's a force greater than us controlling us through media, through technology, isn't there? There's a war waging, and COVID has come to show us where our strengths and where our weaknesses. Are we going to point fingers? Are we going to elevate beyond it? This has come to us. How are we going to deal with all these things? How are we going to wage this war? And some of us have to stand up and fight against being treated like cattle. And those people who have to will know that is their job. And those of us who are meant to keep the peace will know this is our job. So you see, we all have a part to play, and we play together beautifully, then we make beautiful music. And this is the Gita.